I think when that matter came up here, there was concern on whether we should address children affairs in the Marriage Act or we should take it to the Children Act, and that comes back again. Honorable colleagues, I think you remember when that matter came up. Now, on consummation of the marriage, 6 months, above 6 months. I'm interesting about marriage is that it's becoming more a proactive field than ever before. So new ideas keep coming every day about how people should conduct their marriages or conduct themselves in marriages. We will put it to discussion. Do we have any other new issues that we can include? I guess there is none. Any? Please feel free. Okay. In the interest of time, I think there is none. And I want to hand it over back to honorable colleagues. Should we call it? We call it the women's rights organizations and activists. I think that's the, from here, women's rights organizations and activists, that's the umbrella, have presented their input on the marriage bill. First, they start by applauding you, the honorable colleagues, for the new life you've breathed in the marriage bill that addresses issues which have been areas of concern before. And many are highlighted: harmonization of age, property, recognition of premarital and post-marital agreements, the non-monetary contributions, and a lot others. And they're appreciative that the bill comes to breathe new life into the marriage. Then they also highlight a few challenges that they believe should not find their way in the bill and make recommendations therein. Consent of parents to a marriage, and the argument is based on the constitutional provision: free will, free consent by the parties to the marriage, not their parents. The premarital counseling, according to the presentation, it is more male chauvinistic. It over highlights the exaggerated self-importance of men in the marriage. And I like the way she chose her words. They were very, very elaborate and very calm. Then it emphasizes polygamy in civil marriages, and a few other issues as you have noted them. What is your take, or do you need further clarifications from the presentation? Oh, yeah, we have new members who joined us who haven't introduced themselves. I'll start with my Jaja from Bunyoro.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'm Noel Kisembo Basemera. I represent the people of Kibale District. I'm a member of the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee. I'll make my submission after the others have introduced.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Chair and everyone, I'm Mayanja Alan, a Member of Parliament. I'm representative of Nakaseke Central. I'm a member of Gender, Labour and Social Development Committee, and I'm also the Vice Chairperson of COSASE. Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity.
You forgot to add that you are a member of the National Unity Platform.
Morning, Honorable Chair. Fox Odoi Oyuelowo.
I am Uelife Peter Christopher, and a member of Legal and Community Affairs.
Chair and everyone, my name is Abeja Susan Dioli.
Thank you, Chair. I represent the people of Konzo East, Kasese District. Thank you.
Thank you, honorable colleagues. I think we now, let's react to the presentation. Start with Chair Baka. To argue, raise, then you respond at once. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, to reach. So I thank you and all the umbrella organizations. Now, Mr. Chairman, my issue is not specific to any clause. I have a generic issue, and the issue is that do we need this law? Do we really need this law? Because in the introduction that the lady made, I'm forgetting the name, Rose, thank you for the presentation. It was well presented. In your introduction, you said, you alluded to the fact that this is more or less a women's liberation bill. This is the women are looking at this bill as an opportunity to liberate themselves, to start breathing. So other than looking at it as a women's liberation bill, as an opportunity for the women to incrementally liberate themselves, do we really require this law other than looking at it from that perspective? Because we have a problem. If that's the perspective, then we are going to have men also going to a cocoon to see how they can also either maintain the status quo or even liberate themselves, because there is a feeling that women have already made big gains in as far as their status is concerned in a marriage. So the question is, do we really need this law? In my view, I'm tending to think that we may not need it, because I don't see any problem. Is there a gap? People are marrying every day. Marriages are going on. Courts have pronounced themselves on key important matters relating to property. Those pronouncements are there, and they are guiding the country on how to share property in the event of the dissolution of marriage. Children's rights have been well canvassed through the children's rights, but also court pronouncements. So, to me, I think this is a redundant law, but you may need to convince us whether we need to take a lot of time on this law, or we just recommend to Parliament that the situation is not so bad. It's not one of the issues Uganda is so much dying to have, such that we don't go into unnecessary tearing each other in the name of creating a law when we are actually creating more problems. Back to you, Rose.
Chair, you missed out on the applauses we got and how it is long overdue, and the historical perspective relating to it, all the way from 1964 coming forward. But you pose a very pertinent issue, which we seek opinion. It's not a summary of the discussion. It's an opinion that we seek your input. Yes, let's follow the order so that we have a systematic presentation.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me an opportunity. I would like to present it, but I tend to differ with my chair that do we need this law? For me, I think we need this law. Some of the things are going on well. There are certain things we need to emphasize on, and if they were made into a law, it will help us a lot. However, there are some few things I picked out. One of them is about civil marriage. Civil marriage, I strongly agree with you that it should be monogamous. It has been monogamous, let it remain monogamous to protect our families. Secondly, about cohabiting. I think cohabiting has existed since time immemorial. So I again agree with you that in case of anything, say that women should be allowed to marry more than one man. I think that one, I don't agree with it because, first of all, we are going against culture. Secondly, we are going against nature. If you have married two men, you sleep with all of them one night, and you conceive. The child, you have to go for DNA. That one I disagree. Another thing I disagree with is the man using a wife's name. I think surely according to our culture, usually a woman, you leave your home to go and live in the man's home and in the man's clan. Now you are living in the man's clan, and because maybe you are the bread earner, now you want your husband to take on your name. I think that one is very wrong. I disagree with it. I beg to submit, Chair.
Thank you. You know, these are all matters of opinion, and at the end of the day, we shall. But like you say, let's keep it.
It's interesting, and I really want to thank you for having taken time to analyze. But, Chair, I am interested in the introduction. In the introduction, she notes that it has taken 60 years having a discussion around this issue. And like the chair of legal, I want also to ask a generic question. Did they also sit to ask themselves why it has taken this long? And if we have the answers to that, how are we going to break through? Because, Chair, my opinion is that yes, we seem to be asking for good things, but my opinion is that we are asking for too much. And because we are asking for too much, we may end up not getting what we are looking for. I don't want to look like I am not a woman activist. For the last 17 years, I was an activist, and I can tell you that I did wonderful work for women. But my thinking is that this law is a very good law, but if we come in and we start asking for too much, we may yet take more 60 years. So how do we start small and then gain big? For me, Chair, that is my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnes.
Dear Ugandans, the Electoral Commission is conducting an update exercise of the National Voters Register and registers for special interest groups. The exercise will take place at each parish countrywide for 20 days from 20th January to 10th February 2025, daily from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., including weekends and public holidays. The update exercise is intended to include particulars of eligible voters that are not on the National Voters Register. During the exercise, the following actions will be done: registration of newly eligible applicants, transfer particulars for voters who wish to transfer to new voting locations, correction of misspelled particulars, inclusion of omitted particulars, voters' claims omitted from the register will be handled. Students who were registered by NERA and have since turned 18 years of age need to present their particulars for updating and assignment to polling stations. Voters are therefore urged to check and confirm their polling stations to avoid any inconveniences on polling day. This message is from the Electoral Commission.
From the landslide district of Bududa, thank you for a good presentation. Before I make my submission, I would like to tell the chair of legal that indeed we need this law. It is long overdue. Like my colleague has said in her introduction, he said we have spent 60 years. This bill has been shelved year in, term out. Term in, it is shelved because of the things that we are demanding as women that men do not agree with. But we have to live with the fact that you come in marriage with love
and at a certain moment things go bad, and you have nothing to do but separate. And as you separate, how do we divide the property? I think this law has come in the right time, because marriages are breaking every day. People are in court every day. And I have come in a marriage very young. I have worked for the last 20 years. You have depleted me of all the children, the beauty, everything. And you want the woman to go out empty-handed. It is not really good. But like my colleague has said, this bill has been shelved many times because of the many demands that we make and men are not agreeable with. Like he has said, there's no we can bring in and say, let the women also have many husbands like the men do. It is culture that you marry one man and that is it. It is constructed by culture. Carrying the name of a woman, it is impossible. So for us to penetrate and have this law passed, there are things we have to agree and drop as women for us to be successful. Otherwise, we are going to make these colleagues of ours mad. They will think we are coming to grab their things and whatever. I want to talk about premarital counseling. To me, I think it is very, very important. It contributes to a successful marriage. There are people who go in marriage without anything, without no knowledge of what they are going to do. So they need counseling from several people. They need counseling from the parents. They need counseling from the singers. They need counseling from religious leaders. I think this is important, and we need to carry it on.
Rose's argument is that we make it voluntary, not compulsory.
Not compulsory. Right. Well. Then consent of parents. Are you suggesting that we do away with the introduction ceremonies, because that's part of parents consenting? Do we do away with the kwanjula, with the kuchala visiting, the singers, because that's part of? So the parents have to be part and part of this marriage. That is my submission, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Agnes. Let's follow the order.
Clarity in your presentation. I have a number of unanswered questions in my mind. I think we need to make a law, first of all, that does not cause chaos in society, that does not cause confusion, disorder, but that will cause peace in the institution of marriage and the broader society. Secondly, I'm wondering whether the proponents of some of these extreme ideas have taken into consideration the foundations of our society, because I know every society has its own culture and way of doing things. The level we are moving, I'm asking for, because I know that improvement does not mean a total change, but you improve from the foundations of your society. By the look of things, these proposals seem to achieve an overhaul of the foundations of our society. For example, if you look at our African society, like in Uganda here, she has ably said it that most of our families are patrilineal, and when it comes to marriage, the man carries gifts to the lady's family. But if you go in some society like in India, it is the women who pay this bride price. And therefore, the children carry the identity of the woman. and the woman is the head of the family. Whereas here the construction is the other way around. Because from the beginning we initiate the marriage, we host the marriage and we pay the gifts. Our cultural construction is that the children carry the identity of the man. So where you say that, do you want to say that we should have a choice of whose identity the children take, that it is now a choice? You agree. Either the identity is of the man or of the woman. That's why I'm saying the law should not seek to bring confusion. Have we taken into consideration the foundations of our society? Because this is an African society, this is a Ugandan society. We cannot pretend. That's why Honorable Nandutu is saying, do we abolish the payment of gifts, bride price and whatever? Such that now, but a family is an institution, like many other institutions, which should be organized with a clear structure of leadership and authority. So I don't know what we are seeking to achieve, whether, because I know whether it is an organization, whether it is a family, there should be a structure of leadership. So I don't know what structure of leadership are you envisaging in this family you are proposing. Secondly, when you come as a woman to the man's home, you don't come to be catered for. This is a mentality which has preoccupied both educated and the uneducated women, which is a backward mind, in my view. For somebody to think that I get married to Joab for Joab to look after me. No! You come for us to look after ourselves. You look after me as I look after you. So when you say, but now this leadership is being challenged. Now, when you say that for a man to marry a second woman, there should be proof of the ability to cater for you. I don't think you come to me for me to cater for you. We join together to cater for ourselves. You cater for me as I cater for you. So this mindset that men should care for you is a wrong thinking. And it will keep women backward. You see? Finally, I want to ask or advise, why don't we also provide in this law for contractual marriage? Such that when I get married to you, we agree for a given period. Once that period, or we say we are going to produce 2 children, after 2 children, we separate. Or we are going to be together for 10 years. We are saying civil marriage, religious marriage, and which other marriage, which are polygamous, I mean monogamous. There are two? No. Civil and religious. These 2 marriages are meant to be what? Monogamous. At what stage does one make a change of mind to either keep in monogamy or to cross over into polygamy? Why don't you propose for an inclusion of a contractual marriage in this bill? Otherwise, some people are kept now, are held captive in marriages, and it is resulting into a number of challenges. So, Mr. Chairman, those are some of the very first ideas.
Thank you, Joab. Maybe for the record for our guests, would you tell them which part of Uganda you come from?
I come from the western part, from Masin district. And I'm a married man, by the way, for the last 20 years. And we are catering for each other. My wife cares for me, I also do care for her.
For the last how many years?
For the last 20 years.
Very good.
I've been married from 2004 up to date.
Thank you for your input. Let's have the next. Kindly write down the questions. If you have questions for the members of parliament, we will allow you to ask them at the right time. Can we get further? But let's be mindful of time, because
Okay.
we need to look at the sexual offences bill too.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, for the opportunity.
Dear Ugandans, the Electoral Commission is conducting an update exercise of the National Voters Register and registers for special interest groups. The exercise will take place at each parish countrywide for 20 days from 20th January to 10th February 2025, daily from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., including weekends and public holidays. The update exercise is intended to include particulars of eligible voters that are not on the National Voters Register. During the exercise, the following actions will be done: registration of newly eligible applicants, transfer particulars for voters who wish to transfer to new voting locations, correction of misspelled particulars, inclusion of omitted particulars, voters' claims omitted from the register will be handled. Students who were registered by NERA and have since turned 18 years of age need to present their particulars for updating and assignment to polling stations. Voters are therefore urged to check and confirm their polling stations to avoid any inconveniences on polling day. This message is from the Electoral Commission.
Coalition of the women rights supporters or promoters, thank you very much. I picked a few areas that I would like to share. Whereas I was positive on many of the issues they analyzed, I had issues with the analysis on property, the liability to be shared by men and women. If we want that the property that is held by one spouse upon coming together, this property is shared and it becomes matrimonial property, why not also share the liability that comes with it? Why do we want to leave the liability to the men and not women, or maybe vice versa? And from the analysis I've seen here, it was like transferring the liability on one spouse. Really, personally, I would think if we are coming together and we are happy to enjoy the property that has been maybe acquired by one spouse after we've become, after the union, then let us share both the assets and liabilities together. Unless you clarify, maybe I got it wrongly, but if that is not the case, I would think we need to improve on that.
Noeline, before you take leave of that point, I invite you to look at clause 51. Clause 51 of the bill. Liability incurred by a spouse before marriage relating to property shall, after the marriage, remain the liability of the spouse who incurred it.
And for me, that is where I let also women also get other men. I am wondering, is that also reality? Won't that create confusion? If in the other one we are trying to look at the actual reality on the ground, probably even these other ones, we need to look at the actual reality, because then we might go against the existing social construction and social norms that will throw chaos in society, which we don't want. So I want to pray that on all these sections, let us also be guided by the social reality, because we live in this society. We are patrilineal. We know how we don't want to reconstruct the society at this time, because we might throw ourselves into chaos that we cannot carry. On the premarital counseling, it is a good thing, but making it a condition, I share your opinion. Making it a condition, there are those who cannot have the opportunity to have it. Would it mean they don't proceed to marry because they have not had the opportunity to be counseled? So there I share your opinion. Also on the consent, the parental consent, I also share their position, because in this country, the constitution defines who is an adult. And if I am 18 years of age, I must not be conditioned by my parents to whom to marry and whom not to marry. So I share your position. And actually, there are many marriages that have subsisted up to today, and where the parents did not give consent. So if it became law, it means such would not take off. Let me end there.
Thank you. But have you paid attention to areas where?
My concern is on when you say, Rose, that premarital counseling should be deleted or should not be allowed. I think when you look at this clause 15, it is talking about even the minister through regulations prescribe premarital counseling guidelines. I think like the way we see the Catholic Church, they have even Tuesday class where you get counseling before getting marriage. I think we may not make it mandatory, but it might be optional, whereby you can say marriage may, not shall. I think we can have amendment in that. And secondly, about the preandry, where women, one woman is married to 2 or several men. I think here we need experience. As my colleague she has said, that we need to benchmark and serve these women. Or these
remember information. I want to give you information that it happens, but silently.
So I think as a committee, we may benchmark and see how these ladies are experiencing this. And lastly, Honorable Joab has given us a new term of contractual marriage. As a committee, which we need to think more about it and see how it can work. But really, all ladies, all men are suffering in marriage, in different marriages, which we need to give it more time and think about it. Thank you. You can also give us your submission exactly on this term.
I wouldn't want Honorable Fox to come in before you tell us a particular jurisdiction where we can benchmark on polyandry. You have one or two?
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and beg your indulgence to spend quite some bit of time on this subject. You know, I think there are matters that are settled. I call them first principles. Let me start from there. How do we want our society to be organized? This is a settled matter. It was settled way back in 1995 when the people of Uganda, through their representatives, promulgated the 1995 Constitution. And I beg to take you to only 3 articles that I will address the presentation of Rosa in respect of these matters. Number 1, Article 21 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. The heading is Equality and Freedom from Discrimination. So 21(1), all persons are equal before and under the law in all spheres of political, economic, social, and cultural life and in every respect, and shall enjoy equal protection of the law. That's number 1. All persons, men, women, are equal. Number 2, Article 31, 1A. Honorable Chair, you know this is our Bible. And this is the only instrument that binds all of us. 31(1)(a). A man and a woman are entitled to marry only if they are each of the age of 18 years and above and are entitled at that age to found a family. No, B. To equal rights at and in marriage, during marriage, and at the dissolution of marriage. Again, underscores only one thing: equality of both sexes. The last one, 33, 1 and 4. Rights of women. 1. Women shall be accorded full and equal dignity of the person with men. Emphasis mine. With men. Number 4, clause 4. Women shall have the right to equal treatment with men, and that right shall include equal opportunities in political, economic, and social activities. So I would have been surprised, probably before I express my surprise, I have a question, a straightforward question to Rosa and your colleagues. Do your proposals fall within the 4 corners of the Constitution? Equality. Are you asking for anything more than what was settled by the Constitution in 1995? And I will express my surprise. I would be incredibly surprised if you came to Parliament in 2025 to ask for anything less than what is in the Constitution. To ask for anything less. And it doesn't matter whether it scares men, whether they have to. I think I usually put it this way: the men folk suffer from an exaggerated ego, which is also very thin, incredibly thin. And I would encourage you to keep poking at that ego. Keep poking every day. Don't give up. Keep poking until you attain equality. Until you attain equality. That's what the Constitution talks about. I have only one contribution, Honorable Chair. That was a preamble. I was looking at...
Dear Ugandans, the Electoral Commission is conducting an update exercise of the National Voters Register and registers for special interest groups. The exercise will take place at each parish countrywide for 20 days from 20th January to 10th February 2025, daily from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., including weekends and public holidays. The update exercise is intended to include particulars of eligible voters that are not on the National Voters Register. During the exercise, the following actions will be done: registration of newly eligible applicants, transfer particulars for voters who wish to transfer to new voting locations, correction of misspelled particulars, inclusion of omitted particulars, voters' claims omitted from the register will be handled. Students who were registered by NERA and have since turned 18 years of age need to present their particulars for updating and assignment to polling stations. Voters are therefore urged to check and confirm their polling stations to avoid any inconveniences on polling day. This message is from the Electoral Commission.
Maintenance to cease on marriage. I want to propose, there's a common law principle, otherwise known as almoni pendant lite, maintenance during the course of litigation. don't you think we should codify, and this arises from your submission, the dissolution of marriage can be a very contentious and acrimonious matter. Don't you think we should codify maintenance pendant lite? I thank you, Honorable Chair.
But Honorable Fox, thank you. Maintenance, and the others, the ex-spouse wants to move on, has got Joab, is taking him on as a wife, and that's where the contention is.
Relating to children on the dissolution of marriage. But perhaps before we even get to orders relating to children on the dissolution of marriage, how do we manage the litigation phase? How do we manage maintenance of children and spouses during litigation?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fox. You know, we
went to the university around the same time, and he used to be very broke. So he would come and bench, and I walk out and go to one day and get pork with the one who's loaded. But that's off record, please. Thank you. I'm not a member of the Legal or Gender Committee, but I'm a member of Parliament. The woman MP for Pakwach, I'm called Avur Jane Pachuto. Chair, two things. I just want to pick on, while I was putting my hand was when Honorable Neolin was presenting, and she was talking about liability, probably, and assets. And I participated during workshops of this marriage bill. And I know that nobody is born married. There's a process to get to be married. And some marry well at 18, these days even 14. Some marry at 57, 40. Some marry at 35. So because of that age difference, no fixed age where one can get married, most likely one of the spouse or partner will go into marriage when he or she already has assets and probably liabilities. Now, when I do not transfer my assets to the marriage, it is not part of the marriage. That's what I understand. If you got me when I already have a car, I have a house or land, and I did not transfer that, we live all our life and I don't transfer, I don't think the other spouse can claim it in any way. Same with liability. If you have a loan in the bank and we have not discussed it, you have not even disclosed it, and you've not transferred it to the marriage, then how is it? How are we arguing that, you see, I've come in this marriage, I had my big loan of 200 million, so you must take over. I think we need to be careful there, because I may have got that loan and have not disclosed it, and I want it that way. So for me, Honorable Neolin, that's where we don't agree. And then I want to agree with my brother that came before Honorable Neolin. People, I think we need to know the society from which we are coming from. From the time I was born a girl, I was raised a girl, not a man. I was even taught how to sit, how to talk, but of course talking I became a little bit different. But I was taught certain things. Even up to secondary school, I happened to go to a Catholic school. We were taught not, mangoes were in the compound and you are not supposed to run as a woman. When it drops, because you're in a community, walk and pick, or wait for them to be picked and brought to the dining. No struggling for food. So, I think our bringing in African society, especially the culture where I come from northern Uganda, marriage is not for economics. It is social. No woman in Pakwach there, I'll tell her,
when you get married, first get to know how many bicycles, how many vehicles, how many plots of land, and they will take me seriously. They have come to marry, till the land, do maybe some business, produce children. And they are shown the land. This is where you are going to start digging. My brothers still dig and build where my grandmother, who was married in that clan, dug. So, whereas we must cope with the modern times, we must integrate our traditional, the positive aspects of our traditional, whatever. We cannot afford to start telling young girls in this society that as you go, Honorable Fox, he has a whole beach for himself. He has an airport. Then we are going to make the institution of marriage just a target. We are going to have target, marriages. I come, we sign the certificate, and because I must claim that property, people even are going to kill each other. Because when Fox dies, after all, I'm the married wife, I'll take over everything. I think marriage in our society, in the Ugandan society, most societies, is not for economics. It is social. And let us encourage women to be also hardworking. Women to own property. There is no law that forces you, because you are married, you must bring everything in a marriage.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you. Then on sexual harassment.
I want you to be...
I want to go away, Chair.
No. We have not yet received that presentation.
When are you receiving?
After this.
Okay, Chair, thank
you. Finally, but we need to run because we have another...
Following what I'm hearing here and my recent interaction with my community, colleagues and the women before us, our work makes us interact with people nearly on a daily. In my recent interaction, I told the mourners at a funeral, because there had been an instance in that family, and I had to stress that we are working on a law that will provide safeguards for the property to be for the woman and the children. And I emphasize that the family members, can you back away from the property of the widow and the children? I wish you were there to see the women jump up in celebration. Immediately I told them that the same law provides that if you are a hard-working woman and while in marriage you are able to acquire your own property and you died, you the owner of this property, your family, you as the woman, is not going to come and claim this property. And they all disagreed. All the women disagreed. They said, no, the property will belong to my family where I come from. I saw the level of selfishness. I have seen that same level of selfishness in this house, in this room here. Why I'm saying this, I have listened to you. And we are addressing the marriage bill. But all the submissions are bent towards the survival of a woman in the marriage institution. I know that we have provisions that talk about the male spouses. But if you listened like I did, the pronouncement is more on the other side. How I wish that you addressed this equally, brought it as an institution submission, you would receive all the support that is there. But this that is bent already gives bias to those that we will be able to, that we will meet and present. I therefore want to request that all is not lost. we are supporting this bill. You people who are coming in to give us the flesh, give us the right flesh before it is spoiled, because we are the carriers. So we want to take the real flesh and market it to the other consumers. I hope I spoke and people understood me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable. Now, I need to raise only two issues if we use it to guide us in our deliberations when we are making the final report. In reaction to the issues which the members raised, because we need to receive your presentation on the sexual offences, and yet we have to be out of here by 1 o'clock for another team to come in. From my end, I was quite fascinated, and I've been making interjections to clarify on a few things. But when you make a presentation and say we need this for the good of the women, that's what he's referring to. There creates a bit of bias. Our appreciation is that this law is to regulate marriage, which speaks to both man and woman who voluntarily come together to enter union. So one of the challenges of ages and at different times enter into marriages for different reasons. There will be a stage when people enter in marriage exclusively for love. But as a society, we also cognizant of other factors that guide people entering into marriage. And so some of these may not strictly adhere to our desired provisions, and yet we need to cater for them as their representatives. So I don't want to preempt, but we may not to the letter adopt all these provisions, but we want to have as much of different opinion so that it guides the committee in reaching a decision. There are matters of opinion, sentiments that have been expressed, but that does not in any way reflect on the final position of the report, because it has to be a joint report, inclusive of opinion of all members, redebated and agreed upon. So I want to invite you to spend about 5 minutes.
As women, so we cannot give an opinion that is for men. I know that men are used to women looking after them, and you expected us to come here and look after you. But we are not. We are going to be selfish today and request this committee that also has men to look after us as the women by guaranteeing us equality in marriages. So that is why our opinion is biased, because we are women. We are not men. Do we need this law? Yes. And I'll speak from my experience as a divorce lawyer of over 10 years. They can change sides. Do we need this law? Yes. And I speak from my experience as a divorce lawyer. People have been saying, I've been married for 25 years, what? I have 10 years experience running around in family division. What happens when it comes to a marriage ending? There are two issues that are most contentious. One is children, the second is property. We may not want marriage to be economics, but unfortunately it is. It is the basic unit of society. It is the basic unit of production.
Sorry to interject. Does any of the people represented here have any statistics of divorce for the last maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
We can avail. We can avail.
Yeah, I would love it.
We can avail. So it is the basic unit of production. You cannot divorce marriage from economics. You would be telling yourself lies. All this of we are going in for emotions, what. When it's time for him to divorce you, you begin to wonder, where is my food going to come from? Where am I going to live? How am I going to survive? And unfortunately, our current laws do not address the economics of marriage, which has created backlog in family division because parties cannot decide or consent towards property. And when you talk about the cases where you're saying they have decided, unfortunately, it is high court judges who have decided most of these matrimonial property cases. The problem with that is that another High Court judge can depart from that opinion. Constitutional Court hasn't pronounced itself on the issue, neither has the Supreme Court. So we still have challenges distributing matrimonial property. So it is the Parliament's duty to settle the issue of matrimonial property because we have a huge challenge. The issue of children was settled, but the one of matrimonial property, we still have challenges. Polygamy. Our challenge with this law is that it is creating a standard of polygamy in marriages in Uganda. And yet our statistics show that most people are monogamous. So why are you making polygamy the standard? That is the question that we ask. And then it comes down to the issue where you're talking about women want to marry more than one husband. We are talking about equality in law. The purpose of the law is supposed to create a standard, and the standard must be equal for both men and women. Our current laws under the Customary Marriage Registration Act are open. Actually, women can marry more than one husband under our current law. But does it happen? Actually, no. Why are you presuming that because you create one unique standard, suddenly all of us are going to go and marry more than one husband? What we are asking for is equality. Whether it actually happens, who knows? A few years ago, I wouldn't wear trousers and appear before you, but here I am. A few years ago, I wouldn't be guaranteed an education as a girl, but here I am. Society changes. It is not static. So maybe 10 years from now, I'll be allowed by society to marry more than one husband, and the law should accommodate that. The other issue I wanted to raise is around names. Honorable, what I want to tell you is that we do not draw identity from names in Uganda. We draw identity from our clans. At least in Bugisu, that is what happened.
Excuse me, Chair, allow me to give some additional clarification.
No. So, what I was trying to say is we don't draw our identities from names. Historically, in Ugandan cultures, people were given individualized names. The issue of taking on your father's name is a colonial perspective. I was named after my matrilineal, my maternal grandmother. She was called Rose Nandudu, and I carry that name with pride. Does it take away the fact that I'm from the Bukwaka clan? It does not. So I still draw my father's clan, but I carry my maternal grandmother's name. So we shouldn't conflate my husband having my name with him belonging to my clan. It doesn't work that way, at least in what I know about our histories. We are also not trying to take away parents from marriages. We are not. The Constitution allows us to individualize consent. An adult cannot consent through their parents. Your parent cannot consent for you to have sex, neither can they consent for you to marry. So that you can't infantilize people to that level. Neither does it take away introduction ceremonies. All the ones I've attended, they always ask you, what does that mean? They are seeking the individual consent of the girl who is getting married. So even within those introduction ceremonies, it's not about parents consenting. It's about the person getting married consenting. The rest are just gifts which cannot be returned. So I will not belabor on the issue of contractual marriages. Maybe we can submit a memo. But all I want to say is to reiterate what Honorable Fox has said. As women, we are not asking for too much. Since way back, we have been told you're too much. You're asking for too much. You're too loud. You're bad-mannered. Look at you. Sit down. Keep quiet. Why are you asking for too much? What we are asking for is what is guaranteed under the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Under Article 31, what we want is equality. And here we are demanding for equality in marriage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. note down everything that you wish to be addressed. We would further seek clarification in case of anything.
Dear Ugandans, the Electoral Commission is conducting an update exercise of the National Voters Register and registers for special interest groups. The exercise will take place at each parish countrywide for 20 days from 20th January to 10th February 2025, daily from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., including weekends and public holidays. The update exercise is intended to include particulars of eligible voters that are not on the National Voters Register. During the exercise, the following actions will be done: registration of newly eligible applicants, transfer particulars for voters who wish to transfer to new voting locations, correction of misspelled particulars, inclusion of omitted particulars, voters' claims omitted from the register will be handled. Students who were registered by NERA and have since turned 18 years of age need to present their particulars for updating and assignment to polling stations. Voters are therefore urged to check and confirm their polling stations to avoid any inconveniences on polling day. This message is from the Electoral Commission.